Okay.
Clap one on three. One, two, three. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of True Crime and Cocktails. We're so glad that you're here. As always, I am your host, Lauren Ash, and as always, I am joined by my co-hostess with the mostess, Christy Oxborrow. How you feeling?
The world is empty and devoid of color and just everything sucks.
I'm so sorry.
It's
Christy
fine.
got some devastating hockey news today.
I
I
did.
have to tell them really quick because otherwise people
Yeah.
are going to be like gut punching,
Oh,
like, oh
oh
my
yeah.
God.
Yeah. No, I love that I was gonna say I'm fine physically. I'm not, but like I am, but I'm going through the ringer today because this is the joke. I've had so many people reach out to me today because they knew how I was gonna react. Such a beautiful thing. But on Patreon a week ago,
Mm-hmm.
we did an episode where in real time the people got to witness what happened when I got a text that there was a rumor one of the Philadelphia Flyers was being traded.
Right.
And I spiraled, for lack of better words. I
She did.
spiraled. I lost my mind. I was immediately like trying to figure out, where is this rumor coming from? Is it true? What are we doing? And of course, there was no answer until the next day. I had to wait till a game started to know, like, is he on the ice? Is he in the building? Was it real? Was it not? So I was in a state of just like constant anxiety and sickness. And then the next day, the player was not traded. Everything was fine. They were like, there's no, get rid of the rumors. It's not true. He's not going anywhere. The team has him locked in. Don't worry about it. And I went, okay. And then we had another week of trade. And today, the day we're recording this, trade deadline. And I was like, cool. Everything's fine. And I get a notification that's like, hey, you actually traded a player? And I was like, weird. We literally just got that player. So then I kind of went off the rails and was pissed because what's the point? Why do you have a guy for a month? And then he goes, and then it was like, oh, yeah. And you traded this guy. And I was like, okay, fine. And then I start to see all the rumors that Scott Laughton has been traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And Scott Laughton is in my own personal top 5 of Philadelphia Flyers. And so I was like, that can't be real. And so the denial that I went through was pretty bad. And I left the house because I was like, this can't be real. This can't be real. And I was like, I'm getting a Slurpee. I'm just going to go out and I'm going to get a Slurpee. Fine. That'll make me feel better. But I'm like, I can't look at my phone while I'm out because if I
Right.
find out it's for sure while I'm out, I'll just break down. By this point, the New York Times had said he was traded, but I refused to believe it. I was like, someone did shoddy reporting. It's not real. I won't believe it until the team tells me themselves. So I'm like, that can't be it. That can't be it. Went and got my drink, came home. I got one for my husband as well. So I came to the office, I handed it to him. And then I was like, I haven't checked my phone because I'm worried about it. And he's like, okay. And so he was like, I'll stand here quietly, let her look, see how it goes. And I looked, and all I saw was the trade notification that we did in fact trade Scott Laughton. And I'm not even making a joke. I fully just burst into tears. I was like, I can't. And I just kept saying, he's one of my favorites. He's in my top 5. And then I was like, I don't even have a Laughton jersey yet. Like I lost it. And so my husband's like hugging me and was like, it's okay. Like it's fine. And I was like, I understand that this is the sport and they say it's for the betterment of our team. Scott Laughton was the glue that held my boys together. He may not have been the official captain, but that boy was our leader.
Mhm.
And I really think losing him was not the move. I don't believe what we got in exchange was worth it. I don't believe there was anything in the world that would be worth it because he is the heart of that team. And I'm really worried of what's going to happen with him gone. And so I had a cry. I was just, and I'm physically ill because my anxiety is like still freaking out. Uh, And then my husband made a comment about like, oh, well, Gritty's going to need a new best friend because last season they did a whole bit of videos where the mascot Gritty chose one of the players as his best friend. Lawton got chosen. They went and did a photo shoot together at JCPenney. It was beautiful and I loved it. And Gritty has posted a I'll miss you King with a picture of him and Lawton. And so then I've cried again and it's a whole thing. And then my 9-year-old's team traded their captain away, and I had to tell him when he came home from school. And so then, not unlike my husband holding me or like an hour earlier, I had to sit and hold him while he had a tear. He was pretty upset. And then my oldest, who said the NHL trade this year was the best trade for him ever. Like all these beautiful things happened. He's living his best life. Well, apparently NFL trades are going on, and his team got rid of so many people. So I've heard so many shouts in my home today, like it's silent, and all of a sudden I hear "Come on," and like just a lot. So there have been a lot of group hugs today.
Mm.
There have been a lot of things, but yeah, I mean, there are 6 loves of my life. Lauren Ash, my husband, my children, who I'm counting as one, my cats, who I'm counting as one, a squishmallow named Babs, neither here nor there, and the Philadelphia Flyers.
Of
Those
course.
are the loves of my life. And again, I love the whole team, but I have a top 5.
Of course.
And one of them now to have him go, like the devastation that I feel is it's a lot. I mean, I've been saying lately one of the players like really like ramped up his game. So I said, I've got a top 5, but I'm willing to make it a top 6 for that guy. And now that one of my top 5 has left, I said, well, it's just a top 5. And my husband's like, oh, so now the guy who was number 6, he's moved up to that spot. And I said, no, no one's touching Lawton's spot. I've got top 5. Lawton's spot will remain in honor in my brain. His little jersey is hung there in memory. And then the other guy's number 6. So there's only 5 of them, but it's a top 6 technically. No one's replacing him. I'm just livid. And we have a game tomorrow.
Mm.
So as I've told you before this record, I'm going to go to a store and I'm going to buy a sheet cake. And during that game, I'm going to eat my feelings
And
because
for
they're
those
going to
wondering,
talk
she
about
did
it.
tell me before the record that that cake must have a custard layer.
It must. It must. The thing is, the custard layer, I can't believe I'm actually saying this out loud. The custard layer makes me feel like I'm doing something healthy because it's adding dairy. Like to me, I was like, it's putting calcium in your body. That makes cake healthy. It's a
Listen,
secret.
women of a certain age, it is important that we get enough calcium and vitamin D.
You're right.
We don't want our bones to go away. We don't want to, osteoporosis.
It's true. It's true. I'm already like, well, what store should I go to get this cake? I need it to be like a top level cake. I just need. It can be a basic vanilla, but I need it. I need the custard, and I want it top level. And then I'm like, what if I say fuck the sheet cake?
Mm-hmm.
What if I go angel food cake
Mm.
and have like a strawberry sort of sauce with it?
Remember the angel food cake we made when we were kids?
Yeah, with
We
like
didn't make the cake,
the
but we cut it in
blueberries and
half.
yeah.
We took like Cool Whip and
Yep.
strawberries, blueberries, raspberries. We made it as a filling and then we iced the whole thing. It was really beautiful
Oh, 100%.
and delicious.
Do you know what I've realized in my older years?
What's that?
When it comes to Cool Whip,
Mm-hmm.
the less fat one tastes better than the regular.
Interesting.
Yeah. And that was just like, didn't mean for it to happen, but it did. Because I think it was like a Thanksgiving or an Easter dinner or something. And my brother-in-law was coming over and he was like, "What can I bring?" And I was like, "I need whipped cream actually." But they were sold out of the regular. So he brought the like less fat one or whatever. And we were all like, I don't know, less fat on like a fatty product. I don't know if I'm going to like this. It tastes better.
Well, science for you.
Yeah.
Sometimes the lower fat options in general in foods is they add sugar.
Oh,
So if you don't have fat being tasty, then they add sugar, which is also tasty.
sure.
So a product like that, it does actually, there is some science as to like it might be better because it may just have more sugar. So it might be a little sweeter or more
That
balanced in
makes
some way. Yeah.
that makes sense. I don't know. I think it's maybe sweeter, but there's something about the consistency of it that I'm like, it
Mm.
just tastes better. So now we always buy the lower fat Cool Whip because it just tastes better.
Look, I respect that. I was
And
watching a
you know,
TikTok the other night and it was a guy who was showing his like favorite, I guess it's like a build your own salad type spot. Um,
sure.
and instead of lettuce, he subs pasta. And that for me, I was like, that's my kind of salad, sir. But then he was very specific that he likes the low fat Caesar dressing, and he's like, it's not a health thing. If you haven't already noticed, this salad is not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like, it just tastes better. So I do think that there is some products
Uh,
that sometimes it's the move.
I'm gonna have to experiment with this because I mean, is low fat ranch better than regular ranch?
I personally can't believe that that is true,
Right?
but
I feel like I wouldn't have said the same for Caesar though.
right. See, my main thing is I never want a runny ranch. I always want my ranch to
Oh
be
no.
thick. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I want it
Yes.
thicker than a Snicker. I want it as thick as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, However, there is a small chain like of pizza places called Pitfire Pizza in LA.
Sure.
This is not an ad. Um, and they do a ranch in house. And when I order a Pitfire pizza, I get like 6 sides of the ranch because it's so good that I like just want to. If they should bottle it, and it's the thinnest ranch that I've ever enjoyed, if that makes sense. Yeah,
Interesting.
it's very thin, which again, normally I'm not into, but there's just something about the flavor of it that I'm like, oh, hell yes. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is.
Huh.
But I do have to also say,
Yeah.
Hidden Valley, they did send me some product because I've been effusive online more than once about my love of ranch.
Of
But
course.
they're not paying me, so I could say if I didn't like it.
Of course.
One of the new products was I may have talked about this on the show before, but it's a Parmesan ranch. And see, for
Oh,
me, what I do typically is, especially if we're doing it as a pizza dipper, I am putting so much Parmesan cheese into
mhm.
that ranch, mixing it around, make it a slurry. It's perfection. And listen, it's like they read my diary. When I ate that product, I was like, this is the only ranch I feel like if there was no other ranch ever available to me, I'd be happy. Like I'm fine with it. And that's big. That's saying something.
I think one of the cutest things you've ever said is it's like they've read my diary because I just immediately picture you laying on your bed,
Hmm.
knees bent, feet in the air,
Yep.
possibly a Cyndi Lauper playing,
Hmm.
writing in a diary, and it's like I heart ranch. And
Dear
that's
diary,
the cutest thing.
I heart ranch, but I really heart Parmesan in my ranch. If only a company
Hmm.
was brave enough to put out such a product.
I mean,
Yeah.
I love that they're making your dreams come true.
Look, I didn't even know it was on their radar. I didn't know it was on anyone's radar except for me.
I have a
Because again,
feeling that they were like, you know what? We can do something else with ranch. Let's
they
try
have a
some.
lot of innovations, I'll be honest. There's also a buffalo ranch that they put out that I am also really enjoying. Because that's another
Oh,
thing I would
sure.
do at home. I would take like buffalo sauce and mix it in ranch. That's not crazy.
I think that I have not been experimental enough with my dipping sauces.
Look, I don't want to call you out, okay? This isn't an attack, all right?
Yeah. I'm already in a vulnerable place
You're
today.
already vulnerable. I'm
Yeah.
not pointing fingers.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying again is, you know, sky's the limit.
I need to, you know what? I need to branch out and not be afraid to just try something.
I think we've had this exact conversation on the show like not that long ago.
Oh, I'm
It's
sure of
like
it.
coming back to me. It's amazing to me how truly I forget. We do it,
We
we
do.
hit publish, it erases. Like not a
Yep.
not a sniff of it in there. Not a lick
No.
of it. Not a lick
Nope.
of ranch.
Hey. Oh God, I wish that my brain was nothing but ranch.
Oh,
Because some days
listen,
it
sometimes
feels
I
like
think
it.
mine is.
Yeah. Yeah. Look,
Um,
if the Hidden Valley people uh, want ranch things sent to me, I'm okay with that. I'll accept that.
oh yeah.
I'm not normally, comfortable accepting gifts. Um, but Hidden Valley, I will take that. I buy your liter of ranch, and it seems I'm going through it um in like about 3 weeks.
You know another combo I like?
Yeah, wait.
Like a sweet chili Thai sauce,
Oh,
kind of something
uh-huh.
you'd like do with a spring roll dipper type thing, maybe.
Yeah.
Uh, Mix that in ranch.
Look at you.
I know that might sound insane. It works. It
Oh, I
works.
fully trust.
Yep.
Again, now it's coming back. Did we have this conversation? And I was like, you should have a ranch cookbook.
I believe it. Yeah.
Because I
And
was
you know
just
what?
thinking
Here's
it.
the thing.
Oh,
I
yeah.
I think I need to approach them with this. I think we need to approach this because if this has come up twice in the last few months, our subconscious brains
Yeah.
are, first of all, begging us to remember
Yes.
anything, begging us to be like,
Yes.
please, please retain anything that you say on the show. That was the
Yeah.
first thing. And second thing, I think our subconscious brains are saying, that's an idea.
Make that happen.
Make that happen. Because it would also be funny because, again, like a cookbook of ranch recipes, like how many could there be if it was just variations on ranch? Now, of course, I can also talk about all the different dishes that you can make with ranch, you know.
Of course.
And then what I like about that is gets me in the kitchen to do some experimenting. You know what I'm saying?
I like that. Because then
Yeah,
you can also just include like a powdered ranch.
100%. You know, you can get that in like a big shaker at Costco. Can in the States anyway.
I mean, that checks out.
Yeah.
My God. I haven't been
I,
to a
s-
Costco in years.
you know, that's one of the things that baffles me the most about you. You were so passionate about it for so long.
I
I
was.
had never really been. Then I got a taste for it. I got a
Yeah.
taste for the $1.50 hot dog soda combo. I got a
Yeah.
taste for it. Now, I've never had the Costco pizza, but people rave about it.
I've never had it either.
And this is
I
the true rub that we live as far apart as we do. Because to
know.
me, that's what, you know what we do? We set up a camera, we go
Yep.
on a little, road trip to the Costco. We film the whole thing and then we taste it for the first time. And I mean, what a gift to the like dozen, maybe dozen and a half of people who would be interested in that content.
Yeah. Yeah. I think who wouldn't be delighted? All dozen of them would
There's at
love it.
least 18 people, I can guarantee it, that would be like, this is exactly what I want on the internet. And we love each and every one of you, to be clear.
Yeah. Costco chuckleheads. I mean, it feels
The
right.
pizza looks good to me. Like it looks
Sure.
very cheesy. Now I'm like, am I ordering pizza when we're done?
I
Probably.
respect that.
You know, the other night we were recording a Patreon episode and I did order Taco Bell to be delivered right after
Yep.
and didn't regret it.
Mm,
Did not regret it. So, yeah, maybe it's a
hmm.
pizza tonight. Maybe that's what it is.
Why not? I'm already planning out cake for tomorrow. And if I'm
Yeah.
already at a store buying cake, I may as well just buy a quick brie and then, and then have a nice brie.
Well,
Uh,
that's for your health.
the brie. Well, I want something substantial for lunch. So the cake will be like a mid-morning breakfasty brunch, and then the brie. is going to be the lunch. And then apparently the rest of the day, I'm going to fucking hate myself because those two combinations in my body are going to fight all day.
Yeah. It's
And
going
I'm
to
going
be
to be,
Mortal
yeah,
Kombat in your intestines for sure.
yeah,
Now, are you baking the brie?
yeah.
Okay. And are you topping it with anything? Are you using any sort of dipper, or are you literally just baking that brie and going at it with a spoon? By the way, there's no wrong answer.
Of course, of course. My husband and I have the preference of just straight up baked
Mhm.
brie, and then we take like a baguette,
Ooh.
slice it up, and then it gets some olive oil, and then some of the slices get like a little sea salt and black pepper. Some get a little bit of rosemary. Some get just the sea salt. Um, but yeah, I mean that's as experimental I think as we get with it.
You
Is
toast
just
that
what?
baguette?
Oh yeah, we do.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. And of course, we've got like the little cheese spreaders, and we're supposed to be respectable, and you dip in and you spread it on the thing. But I just wait till he's kind of like almost done. And then I'm just like, take the bread into the brie. That's all I want.
I
I've
was in
also
public.
found that the Reggie's honey barbecue
Oh,
chips pair beautifully with a brie.
I love that. I was somewhere in public recently. I love that I can't even remember where this was, but I remember there was like some sort of similar situation, like a dip or something that was set down,
Sure.
and I just went at it directly with a bread dipper. There
Hmm.
was no utensil in it. If it had come with a serving spoon of some
Sure.
kind or whatever, I would have respected the process. But the
Of
fact that it was
course.
just set down with like a basket of crispy baguette, I was like, I'm just going in. I didn't double dip. I feel like that's
Of
that's
course.
fair, don't you think?
So too, right? Because I'm like, what am I really leaving behind?
If I'm just again, I'm not putting it in there twice. I'm not touching it with my hand.
Correct.
I'm taking a dip. I think that's okay. I mean, I'm sure that there would be etiquette people that would be like, that's uncouth. But when have we ever been couth?
Oh, there is not a single thing I would do that an etiquette person would find acceptable. I just don't believe it at all. I don't.
You know what popped into my head was that scene in A League of Their Own where they're giving them like etiquette lessons,
Yes. Hmm.
and Marla Hooch is really struggling.
Yeah, I
I want to
would.
remind you, Marla Hooch, the person that people have asked me
Mhm.
about my experience playing on A League of Their Own, the movie that came out in, I believe, 1992 when I was 9 years old.
It's insane.
Yeah.
I don't see it at all, but also like just do the math.
Just do the math,
Do
guys.
the
Like, it's
math.
again, like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. But,
Look,
you know,
if you're going to mention Hollywood and films,
Hollywood.
I have a bone to pick. And I don't know why this is as upsetting to me as it is. Well, I thought this was the most upsetting thing for me this week. And then today happened.
Yeah,
It's fine. Um, it's not fine. I'm allowed to feel my feelings, but still. So, Oscars.
sure.
I didn't watch. I haven't
Okay.
watched in years, if I'm being honest. I'll tap in
Hmm.
partway through just to do a
Hmm.
quick boo of who won, what's it, whatever, how's it going, who's won each of them, and then I move on with my life. I'll see the clips if there's anything worth seeing. Otherwise, move on. Um, I saw an article that Oscar voters had admitted that they were not going to vote for Rafe Fiennes because he already had an Oscar. And he doesn't. They mistakenly thought he won for Schindler's List, which he did not.
He did not. Yeah.
He's never had an Oscar. That fucking chameleon does not have an Oscar. And the response was, I think he has one, so I'm not going to bother. And who won? The fucking dickhead who did already win before. So
He
it's like,
reminded us. He
what?
reminded us of that
Right?
for sure. Yeah.
And it's just like, what are you doing, Oscar voters? First of all, why are you saying this publicly? Second of all, if you're purposely not going to vote for somebody because they already have one, number one, double check. Number two, that's not what it's about. It's supposed to be about the work and how they did in that specific thing. I recently saw oh God, what was it called? Red Dragon from like
Mm-hmm.
2002 with Ray Fiennes. He was brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even get me started on fucking Voldemort. Like that man is a chameleon and deserves a fucking Oscar. I have not
Yeah.
seen this new one that he was actually nominated for, but I'm disgusted with the Oscar voters just admitting like we're not gonna,
I'm very curious who it was and how many of them were saying that. Like, was this just some
yes,
like did one person go rogue and say that and then got quoted all over the news? Like, that's very bizarre. It's a bizarre thing to
right?
say.
And
Yeah.
then days later, another article came out that was a bunch of Oscar voters had admitted they will not vote for Dune because they don't want to sit through another 3 hours of Dune. And to that I say, one, fair. I've sat through both of the Dunes. Not my style, not my thing. But if you aren't willing to watch the movies, bow out as an Oscar voter. That would be
Yeah.
like me going as a judge on a cooking show and going, I'm so sorry. Does this have olives in it? And they go, yes. And then I go, I'm so sorry you lose. And I haven't even touched it.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just be like, I don't want to watch that. Therefore I won't vote for it. It's like, what's the point if you're just gonna be like that? It's like if that's where you're at, Oscar voters, bow out. Be like, it's not my time. You have to be willing to put in the time, watch the things, and then vote.
I also don't know how much they police that the people actually watch all of it. I mean, it would be
Oh, I
very difficult
assume
to watch
very few.
absolutely everything, right? Um,
It's true.
I, for the record, I actually liked the Dune movies. I know, I don't know. It hit me at the right
Sure.
time or something. I don't know. Zendaya, I'm a fan.
Oh,
I'm always a fan.
talk
It's
about chameleon.
oh, another chameleon, exactly.
Yep.
Now, here's something that I read about that I was thought was interesting about these Oscars. Obviously, Anora won a
Yes.
ton of awards. Regardless of what anyone's opinion is or isn't of that movie, that's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is they made that movie for $6 million. It was an independent film. There was so much conversation in the acceptance speeches and in the, like, thank you for supporting independent film. This is an independent film. It's so beautiful that you've rewarded an independent film. And it's since come out that the studio or whatever that had bought the movie or was involved in the movie spent $18 million on their Oscar campaign. 3 times as much as the movie cost to make. They spent $18 million. They said it was the highest budget spent on any movie had paid this year in this
Mhm.
Oscar campaign. So it begs interesting questions, right? It begs interesting questions, which is like, is it still an indie film when you have $18 million worth of press behind it? Just because it only costs $6
Right.
million to make. I think if you have $18 million worth of press to put into an Oscar campaign, I don't know that that qualifies as an indie film anymore.
Yeah,
That may
it's
not have been a part
tough.
of the original budget, but you see what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I don't know. I just thought that that was a very interesting. It's an interesting debate, right? Because
Sure.
again, it's like, and what did that look like? What was that money spent on? What were they sending the Academy? Like, what materials were
Yeah.
they sending the Academy? Was it just that they were seeing it all the time? They were being constantly reminded of the movie? Like, I don't know. I don't know any of these answers, but I just thought that that was like a very
Hmm.
interesting, you know,
It
additional
seems,
detail that I didn't see coming.
I mean, I get that I'm not in the business, but that seems insane to me.
It's a
I
lot of
mean,
money.
obviously it worked,
It worked.
but it just feels wild to spend that much money to try and get an Oscar. But again, because what they got like movie director, script, and
Best
actress.
actress. Yeah.
Jesus.
And then I guess it's like you can't put a value on those things, right? Like
Sure.
it's intangible what those awards will do for the studio, the
Of
director,
course.
Mikey Madsen, like, again, yeah, it is intangible. Like, ultimately, arguably, the studio, in theory, will make that money back in future things they do because now they can say that that studio is,
Right.
produced Oscar-winning movie Honora. And I understand that. I guess for me, I just have a hard time then considering it a true indie film because to me, it's like,
Yeah.
why isn't that being considered part of the budget of the film? So what? Okay, it cost you $6 million to make it. Great. Part of the budget of the film, in my personal opinion, is still what goes into press and PR.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I've just never heard of the two things not going hand in hand before. But again, I also, far be it from me to I don't know the ins and outs of how they count numbers and whatnot and what's legally count. Because to me, it's like if it's a bigger budget movie, if they say like this
Sure.
movie costs $60 million to make, I feel like that's including the PR campaigns. Like I feel
Oh,
like
I
they're putting that
assume.
in the budget. Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
and when it's such a massive amount of money, I don't know. I just think
Yeah.
it was like you needed to stop pushing so hard that it was an indie film when you know that there was so much money that went into that movie to publicize it specifically um to get Oscars. All I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, it does feel like did a studio come in at the last minute and they were like, "Well, okay, we believe in this movie, we'll support." Like it's amazing of why they pushed that much money at it.
Yeah, I have to get it. I would have to look at closer about how exactly that happened because sometimes what can happen is you can get financiers to help finance a movie, make the movie, and then shop the movie to studios at that point, and then maybe those studios
Sure.
want to distribute it, put their stamp on it, and go like, "Yes, this is a movie that was made. This is our movie," even though they didn't necessarily have a lot to do with the process.
Fair.
That happens. It's also possible that they were working with the studio and the studio gave them 6 million and then decided to pony up another 18 million. I've just never heard of that also. Like it's such a mass amount of money. And if
It
the studio
is.
had all that money, um, it's interesting to me that they didn't throw them like another couple million. Because then, if we're also getting into it, there has also been some conversation on the internet. I have not been able to fact check this, but there's some Instagram accounts called like crew stories, and it's people who work on TV
Sure.
and film crews, and they anonymously submit, you know, sometimes bad stories,
Of
right? Of like,
course.
and there was some conversation about how initially they were making the movie non-union in terms of the crew, which means
Oh,
they
okay.
don't necessarily get hours counted towards healthcare. They don't have health insurance coming from that project. The project also takes many months, so that's a lot of time to work and then not necessarily have those hours go towards your qualification for healthcare. It's also a weird gray area that the actors would have absolutely been SAG, the union, but then the crew is non-union. Partway through, according to this source, this anonymous source, partway through production, they had to switch and make it union for the crew because there was such kind of it was
Aw.
not totally above board. So there's also that where it's like if you had $18 million to put towards an Oscar campaign, you couldn't have, I don't know, taken a couple million and just paid people more, paid the crew
Right.
more that's working for like next to nothing, ensured that it was a union production to begin with. There's just,
Right. Hmm.
call me crazy. I really like when people are paid with
Paid.
their worth for their
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But listen, you know, what a utopia that would be. Oh my God.
Oh.
Listen, what you drinking over there?
Well, I'm doing just a folk
Uh-huh.
for now, a classic PC cola, but I'm already feeling like the heartburn and the rumbles in my body that's going, what are we doing? You already had your sad Slurpee today, which is different than my happy Slurpee that I normally have.
Of
Um,
course.
the sad one, the joke is the sad one, it meant it was going to be my first of two today because I was going to have that one to chill me out. And then I was going to have another one during record. And then I was just like, I don't think I can do it. And yeah, I'm halfway through this and I'm like, I think I'm just going to have to switch to water because my body is like, I think we need to brace for that fucking cake cheese that's happening tomorrow.
The cake custard cheese combo is going to be
Yeah.
something for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
listen, I've got a Gatorade Zero and a water going, so I'm with you. But then I've also got within reach, I'm realizing a couple bottles of Prosecco. Why aren't these in the fridge? You know what I mean?
Oh, I
Show
respect
those
that.
up, Ash.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just made party signs with my hands and I feel
I'm
very
sorry.
much like a narc.
I'm so sorry. Is that what we call that?
Party signs?
That's party signs? I did
I'm
not
just
know that's what we called that.
no, well, we don't. I guess I just did, but I have nothing to
Ah,
back it up.
well, I see. Here's the thing. I just always assume, even as like a teenager, I've always like even then I was assuming I'm not hip
Hmm.
and like I wasn't cool and I didn't know certain things. So I just assumed this was another case of like
No,
not hip, didn't
no.
get it.
No.
But I
I,
also don't
in
know what I would have
earnest,
called those.
said to Leslie Seiler, friend of the podcast, Leslie Seiler, I, in
Hmm.
earnest, said to her the other day, why haven't the garbage trucks come yet? They usually come by 9. I've aged. That to me, that is like the fact that I know the schedule of the garbage trucks, the
Hmm.
fact that I
Hmm.
recognize that week there was a difference, and the fact that I felt genuinely irritated by it, and it has no effect on me. Who
Correct.
cares if they get picked up at 9 a.m. or 5 p.m.? Doesn't make a difference in my life. But the fact that
Mhm.
I just instinctually was like, "Where's the garbage trucks? Why are they so late?" And then I just went, "I'm elderly. It happened. I'm elderly now."
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
I absolutely get that because
Yeah.
I, well, I once grumbled because I could hear the truck driving past my window one morning. I grumbled because it was earlier than usual and I didn't like it not being on schedule. It was ahead of schedule. And I was like, "Oh, I can't believe it. These young punks getting up early." And it's like, who cares? First of all, to your point, doesn't affect me
Nope.
what time of day,
Not at all.
unless that bin is not out and I'm trying to race to get it put out before it's being picked up, doesn't affect me. We usually put it out the night before, so it doesn't tend to be a problem. And I knew the bin was already out. So why'd I fucking care? What? Like it was just an annoyance that it was early. Like it was driving past. It didn't wake me. I was already awake. It was like 7 something in the morning, and I was just like, oh, early.
I think what's great is we still have the self-awareness about us because guess what? It'll go eventually. Like that
Yeah.
will go away. And that's
Yeah.
when we know we've crossed over. I guess the fact that we
Yeah.
still know that it's like, that's absurd. It's
You're
absurd that we
right.
care.
You're right. You're right. At the moment that we stop, or the moment that we don't stop, the moment that we just say something, what's going to happen is one of us is going to say something and the other's going to go, oh,
Yep.
oh no. And
Yep.
then that's going to be the beginning of the end. And that's just
And then cue
what
Sarah
happens.
McLachlan in the arms of the angels. And we'll have a funeral for our youth. All right, we're
Yeah.
talking about the Alissa Turney case this week. If you're not up to date, have no fear because I have a little bit of a synopsis here to put us both into full gear. Didn't need to do it. Didn't need to do it, but
You
here
say
we are.
that, but I was delighted.
Thank you kindly. All right. In May 2001, high school junior Alissa Turney went missing from her home in Phoenix, Arizona. Other than a 30-second phone call a week later, Alissa has not been seen or heard from since. Alissa was immediately listed as a runaway, so her case wasn't fully investigated until 7 years later when Alissa's friends came forward to say that they believed that Alissa's stepfather was responsible. So, what happened to Alissa Turney? Was her stepfather somehow involved? And why did he later threaten to commit mass murder? Christy Oxborrow investigates.
This is going to zig where you think it's going to zag.
I am getting that vibe.
All right. Disclaimer. This episode will contain mentions of child molestation, child sexual assault, and suicide. So, trigger warning for those who need it. Alissa Marie Strom was born April 3rd, 1984, in Phoenix, Arizona, to Stephen and Barbara Strom. Barbara also had a 6-year-old son named John from a previous relationship. When Alissa was 3, Barbara and Stephen divorced, and that same year, Barbara met Michael Turney. She was working as a loan processor at a mortgage company. He came in looking for a loan. Sparks flew, as they say. For a brief time in the 70s, Michael Turney was a deputy with the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. When he met Barbara, he was working as an electrician. In his spare time, Michael coached Little League and was a Boy Scout leader because he had three sons from a previous marriage: Rhett, James, and Michael Jr. Barbara and Michael quickly married, and in 1988, they had a daughter named Sarah. Michael adopted Alissa and John, who were then given his last name. From the outside, they seemed like a happy, blended family who seemed to get along and love each other so much that they refused to use words like step or half. The kids were just all considered full siblings, and I think that's lovely. In 1992, while working as an electrician, Michael suffered an accident on a job site. Apparently, he was on a roof and the guy holding the ladder slipped. The ladder, uh, I guess it fell or something, and it broke Michael's knee.
Ooh.
It said he never worked again after that. So I have to believe, for the sake of income, he was put on some sort of disability or workers' comp. Around this time, Barbara was diagnosed with lung cancer. She passed away in February 1993 at the age of 34. Um, it's interesting to me that in Barbara's obituary, Michael's sons were listed as Barbara's stepsons, especially when they made such a big deal about, our family doesn't use words like step.
Right.
I mean, but maybe that was a mentality that didn't come into their family until years later. I don't know. Shortly after Barbara's death, Michael started dating Alyssa's third grade teacher, which, I don't know, is a horrible idea for so many reasons. I mean, not my business. You do you. But the relationship didn't last long. After that, Michael just didn't openly date anyone else. Within a year of Barbara's death, extended family members say that Michael cut them off. And when the boys were old enough to move out, it left Alissa and Sarah isolated, alone with Michael. Families say Michael wasn't physically caring for the girls. He left the house a complete mess. He wasn't bringing food into the house. Sarah later recalled there was an entire summer once when nobody brushed her hair. Keeping in mind she was like 5, maybe
Oh
6 at the
God.
time. Eventually, Alissa, who was just 4 years older, took on the responsibility of taking care of Sarah. She made sure she got dressed. She fed her every day, which, I mean, goes without saying, is such an immense pressure and responsibility to put on a child. By 2001, Alissa was a 17-year-old high school junior. She had a part-time job at Jack in the Box, a boyfriend named John Lackman, and a dream of moving to California. On May 17th, 2001, the last day of school, Alissa stopped by the workshop class around 11 a.m. to tell her boyfriend John that she was leaving early because her father was taking her to lunch. Alissa told John she would see him later that night at a grad party. Michael picked Alissa up. They went for lunch. The location was never publicly stated. Michael said he and Alissa talked about their plans for the summer and some problems that they were concerned with. Alissa apparently wanted a later curfew and she wanted to attend a party that night. Michael had told her she can't go because she was already grounded for something. Michael said he dropped Alissa off at their home around 1 p.m. He said the last time he saw Alissa, she was storming off down the hall towards her bedroom. Michael left, and 10 minutes later, he stopped and called Alissa to apologize for their fight. He said the conversation was brief. Michael then ran some errands before picking Sarah up from school. Sarah was 12 years old and in the 7th grade at Explorer Middle School. Since it was her last day as well, Sarah and her class had spent the day at a water park. But when Sarah's class arrived at the school at the end of the day, Michael wasn't there to pick her up. Assuming that the school time has not changed since 2001, according to Explorer Middle School's website, Their school day ends at 3:40 p.m. No one was there to pick her up, so Sarah walked home, which is about 5 miles from the school, but no one was home. So Sarah walked to a friend's house where she called Michael to say where she would be. Michael picked Sarah up around 5 p.m. When Michael picked Sarah up, he was frantic. He said he couldn't get a hold of Alissa. He handed Sarah his cell phone, asked her to call Alissa for him. The call just went to voicemail. When they arrived at home shortly after 5 p.m., Alissa wasn't there. In her room, which was usually neat and orderly, the contents of Alissa's backpack had been dumped on the floor. On her desk was Alissa's cell phone and a note which read, "Dad and Sarah, when you dropped me off at school today, I decided that I am really going to California. Sarah, you said you didn't want me around. Look, you got it. I'm gone. That's why I saved my money. Dad, I took $300 from you. Alissa." From the looks of it, Alissa took nothing with her. She left behind all her clothes, jewelry, and makeup. The $1,800 that was in her bank account was untouched. Michael called Alissa's friends and some family members to see if they had heard from her, but no one had. It was like Alissa had just vanished. Later that night, Michael called the police and said that was had Alissa had run away. Since a note was left behind, the police didn't bother to interview the family or search Alissa's room in any way. They didn't even visit the house. Is it possible that the note was true and that Alissa up and went to California? I mean, she was certainly interested in going. In a phone call months prior with her boyfriend John, Alissa asked if his parents would ever let him go with her to California. She had an aunt who lived there, and she'd been saving up with the plan to move out when she turned 18. That, of course, was not for another year. So while I do agree she had an interest in California, I find it odd she would just up and go out of nowhere, especially when she left her phone, money, and all her clothes behind. A week later, on May 24th, Michael received a phone call around 5 a.m. He said, quote, "The conversation was sort of scrambled. I said, 'Is that you, Alissa?' She said a few cuss words about 'leave me alone,' and then the phone went dead." The number turned out to be a payphone in Riverside, California, about 320 miles from Phoenix and about an hour from where Alissa's aunt was living at the time. Michael drove to the payphone's location, found it was outside a convenience store that had no surveillance cameras. Michael said the phone call was proof that that Alissa was alive and out there somewhere. Michael hung up missing posters, but there was just no sign of Alissa anywhere. He contacted the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and had Alissa officially registered as a missing minor. Alissa Turney has not been seen or heard from in the nearly 24 years since. Alissa was just 17 at the time of her disappearance. Sarah said that Michael was so devastated after Alissa left that over the years, he just kind of let Sarah do whatever she wanted, which is very surprising because he was very, very strict with Alissa. Michael allegedly put a mini fridge in Sarah's room when she was a teenager and stocked it with alcohol. He also, Sarah also claimed that her father gave her various drugs and at one point was totally okay with Sarah's boyfriend moving into the house. The first update on Alissa's case came in 2006, 5 years after her disappearance. Thomas Heimer, who was serving a life sentence for a murder, told FBI agents that he had killed multiple women. They showed him a lineup of photos of missing girls and women, and Heimer pointed to Alissa's photo and said he had met her in Phoenix in the spring of 2001. Heimer claims that after having sex with Alissa at a hotel, he strangled her, put her in a bathtub, cut her body into 6 pieces, and disposed of them at a recycling center. In 2001, Heimer, who was 26 at the time, was traveling the country with a woman named Sandra Goodman. In December that year, while at the Lamplight Motel in Fort Lauderdale, Heimer strangled Sandra and then stabbed her in the neck. He hid Sandra's body under the bed and quickly fled the scene. Heimer was caught the following day driving Sandra's car in Georgia. He was sentenced to life in 2003. Disturbingly, Heimer never gave a reason for the murder, just like did it for no reason.
Jesus.
Sandra Goodman was just 30 years old at the time of her death. Heimer got on FBI's radar when he started sending letters to local investigators in 2006 saying, I'm going to make you famous. I'm a serial killer. Heimer claims he's killed 21 women, but there's no proof of any of that. I mean, obviously, there was proof of Sandra, but no other bodies match what he was saying.
Right.
William Anderson and Stuart Summershoe, who were detectives with the Phoenix Police Department's Missing and Unidentified Persons Unit, flew to Florida to interview Heimer in prison. This is when they discovered that the photo of Alissa that Heimer had recognized was an age progressed photo. So when he saw a photo of what Alissa looked like when she went missing in 2001, when he claims he saw her, he said, well, I don't recognize that girl. Heimer also claimed that the woman he met in Phoenix was a heroin addict, which didn't line up with what everyone knew about Alissa. Heimer also said that the woman he met had, quote, unusual sexual traits. I don't know what that means.
I don't know if I wanna know what
I
that
don't
means.
think I want to know. Are you kidding me? I was not about to Google unusual sexual traits. I left it. But the detectives spoke with Alyssa's boyfriend, John, about it, and he said, no, that is not Alissa at all. Heimer was given a polygraph. He failed. Investigators believe that Heimer recognized Alissa from a newspaper and that he
Mm.
was simply trying to boost his own claims that he was a serial killer because he was in prison for life. And I guess now he was just looking for street cred, I
So
guess.
gross.
Once investigators determined that Heimer's confession was false, they decided it was time to reopen Alissa Turney's case. And by reopen, they mean somebody actually looking into it for the
Mm.
first time. Detective William Anderson said he has never in his career seen a runaway leave their cell phone behind or cut ties completely with every single friend and family member that they have. So he was immediately doubtful that Alissa was a runaway, especially given that she didn't touch her bank account or take anything with her. She'd need food and new clothes, pay for somewhere to stay, maybe pay to like take a bus somewhere, but she didn't use any of her own money. Yes, in her note, Alissa commented she had taken $300 from Michael, which would help her for a short period of time. But why leave the 1800 behind? When police interviewed Sarah, she told them, yes, Alissa had once taken $300 from their dad. However, that happened months before Alissa left. And by the time she left, she'd given the money back. So now it seems maybe that note that Alissa supposedly left behind might have been several months old. And since the note appeared to be crinkled and then flattened out, it makes you wonder if it's possible that Alissa had written the note, crumpled it up, threw it away long before her disappearance, and someone found it and used the note to make it look like Alissa had run away. And while this may feel like a leap to me, I mean, that suggests that someone in Alyssa's life made her disappear. Who would want to harm her? Well, according to Michael Turney, the number one suspect is Alyssa's boyfriend, John Locken. Michael told police he had security cameras set up outside his home, as well as at least one, if not more, regular cameras hidden in vents inside the house.
Ick.
Yeah, I know. Michael said he put the cameras up after someone tried to break into the house when he wasn't home. He said he didn't use the cameras to spy on his children, which is weird because it seems like Alissa didn't know there were interior cameras. But Michael gave police various video clips from months leading up to Alyssa's disappearance, specifically ones showing her in compromising positions with boys who were not her boyfriend. There was also footage from the exterior cameras showing Alissa and John having a heated argument the day before Alissa went missing. In the video, Alissa and John are standing outside near the back door. They walk off camera. Then Alissa comes back into frame, throws a cordless phone at a wall. Then suddenly it cuts to an interior shot of Alissa sitting in the living room, clearly upset, and then you can hear the sound of screeching tires, like a vehicle has just peeled out. The way the video is edited gives the impression that they had a fight off camera and John left angrily. So, of course, police interviewed John in 2008. John said he and Alissa had been together for almost a year. He said the day before she went missing, he went to her house, but Michael prevented him from going inside. John said that Michael said, "Oh, yeah, by the way, she's cheating on you." He confronted Alissa. They fought. He left. The next day, John saw Alissa around 11 a.m. when she stopped by his class to say that Michael was picking her up early, but she would see John later that night at a grad party they were both planning to go to. But he never saw her again. John said he spent the last 7 years feeling like he'd been dumped out of nowhere, and he'd been really upset, thinking she just never bothered to call him. Do we believe that a teenage boy is capable of making someone disappear completely and going so far as leaving a note to throw police off his trail? Honestly, no, I don't think I believe that. I guess in some world it might be possible. I just don't believe it. But Michael was adamant that John was responsible. He told police John was physically violent towards Alissa. No one ever said that. Not a single other person ever corroborated that. Michael then offered up the video of their argument of the day before she went missing. So why is Michael pushing John as a suspect so hard? Is it, I don't know, allegedly to take the heat off himself? In his interview, John said Alissa once told him there was a time when Michael had been inappropriate with her. According to John, Michael took Alissa out driving. They ended up in the desert. Michael pulled over and put his hand on Alyssa's leg. Alissa allegedly got angry and ended up getting out of the vehicle and walking home. And the thing is, John isn't the only one who heard this story. A friend of Alyssa's named Jessica told police the exact same thing. So did Michael's son, Rhett. All three said Alissa confided in them that Michael had inappropriately touched her. One friend even said that Alissa once told her she woke up one day tied to a chair and Michael was on top of her, suffocating her.
Oh my God.
Michael allegedly told Alissa in that moment, "No one will believe you." When the friends suggested Alissa go to the police, Alissa refused, saying that would get her removed from the home, and she refused to leave Sarah alone with Michael. So if it's true and there was sexual abuse happening in the home, then Michael had a much bigger motive for Alissa to disappear. But Michael is adamant that no abuse ever happened. But back in 1993, shortly after his wife died, Michael started dating Alyssa's third-grade teacher, Diane Boardman. When police spoke with Diane in 2008, she told them one day at school, Alissa told her, "I'm having sex with my dad." In the moment, Diane believed that Alissa was acting out because of Diane's relationship with Michael.
Oh,
And when she confronted Michael about it, he said, Alissa believes that sex means kissing someone goodnight. Diane accepted the excuse and nothing was reported. Diane also told police at one point during a phone call with Michael, he referred to Alissa as someone that men would have great sex with someday and that he should get her spayed in advance.
That's disgusting.
Alissa was about 9 at the time. Um, says that about a child of any age, let
Ugh.
alone a 9-year-old. Also, using the word spayed as though she's just an animal. Get bent, Michael.
Yeah.
After Michael and Diane broke up, he never brought another woman into the house. As in many cases of past abuse, there was no physical proof. So at this point, it's Alyssa's word versus Michael's. We, of course, believe victims and survivors on this show, so I'm more likely to believe that Alissa was telling the truth, mainly because what reason would she have for lying?
Yeah.
But also, if it's true, it gives Alissa a pretty big motive to run away. But it also gives Michael a pretty big motive to make Alissa disappear, especially if she were to ever threaten to go public with the allegations. According to family members, after his wife Barbara died, Michael became obsessive and overbearing when it came to Alissa. Her friends said she was constantly grounded over basically nothing. Michael told everyone Alissa was out of control. Was she out of control or was she just pushing back against a possibly overbearing parent? I mean, Michael outright admitted to being controlling. He said he only did it because Alissa needed constant supervision because she was easily influenced and naive. In a home movie that Michael took while Alissa was getting ready for the prom in April 2000, he said to her, like, it was this moment where they're all like, everybody's in their outfits, they're taking pictures, getting into the limo, that kind of thing. And then he yells, Alissa, do not leave the building whatsoever. He was also known for going to Alyssa's work 1 or 2 hours before her shift ended so he could make sure and watch that she didn't leave the building with anyone. Also, while he sat there and waited for her, he would just film her from the parking lot.
Ugh.
Michael claimed Alissa asked him to film her because she wanted footage from her first job. However, in one video, Alissa comes out at the end of her shift and says, Dad, you got me in trouble by filming, which does not sound like someone who asked to be filmed in the first place. But I have bigger concerns with other home movies that Michael took. He seemed to have that camera glued to his hand throughout Alyssa's childhood. And yeah, it's lovely to want to document your lives and capture the memories. Michael said, the videos I record because I love my family. We'll keep that in mind. And yeah, there were videos of them on vacation, camping at Disneyland, videos of them at home, birthday parties, just every day, that sort of thing. There was a video that Michael made at Barbara's funeral in March 1993. I've only seen a very brief clip of it, but there's just a moment where he's just standing in the room and he's like looking around and then he zooms in on the casket. And that's a moment, open casket, I'll mind you. That's the moment where I'm like, what are we doing? Isn't the
Yeah.
point of filming things to remember the happy times? Why film a dead body? When I think of all the funerals that I have attended in my life, I can honestly say there is not one where I would like to go back and see a video of the open casket. Not a single one. There's also a camping video from March 1997 where Alissa can be heard yelling to her sister, Dad's a pervert, which is interesting. Um, Also, not a great sign. And then there's vacation videos where Michael would zoom in on random women that were walking past. And then the ones where he zoomed the camera in on a teenaged Alissa when she was swimming in a pool or sitting in a hot tub. There was even one particular swimming video where Alissa repeatedly begged Michael to stop filming her, and he just kept going. Like she was pleading for him to stop, and he wouldn't stop. It is unsettling to watch she should never have had to say more than once, stop. The second she goes, please don't, he should have gone, understood, and stopped, but he just would not. Again, Michael said he only filmed his family because he loved them. But to me, it was creepy and voyeuristic, as opposed to sweet family memories. Then there are the videos where you could hear Michael outright putting Alissa down. Like there was a video of them at Disneyland, and Alissa was looking at a map, and Michael said, "Oh, look, Alissa can read."
Oh, God.
Which, bad enough. But it's worse when you learn that family and friends say Michael was constantly telling Alissa she was slow. He called her dumber than a rock. He called her stupid moron. In a taped phone call with one of his sons prior to her disappearance, Michael referred to Alissa as, quote, some stupid ass fucking bitch. Which is insane when you remember that Michael was the one recording the conversations to begin with, and he kept that tape because he kept all of them. We'll get to the tapes.
Ugh.
So, was Michael Turney really the loving, devoted dad that he claimed to be, or was that just a mask he used to hide something darker? Because putting down your children, even in a jokey way, isn't positive for anyone involved. But one thing that Michael did that he claims proves he was a good parent, he created parent-child contracts. Michael said the contracts were his way of giving Alissa structure. He said, quote, if you told Alissa something within an hour or so, she didn't remember it. I'm not quite sure how a contract's going to help her with her memory, but okay. The contract, very professional. It was typed out. Alissa had to sign and initial it in front of a notary. This seems extreme. So what kind of things were on this contract? Well, in one dated May 2000, a year before her disappearance, Alissa had to agree to stay away from drugs, specifically LSD, cocaine, marijuana, and any illegal street drug. She also had to agree not to engage in sex, oral sex, sexual activities with a person younger than her, or bisexual activities.
Oh, my God.
Did Michael make his sons sign a contract like this? No, he
Ugh.
didn't. In fact, Alissa was the only child in the family of 6 who ever had to do this because, according to Michael, Alissa was rebellious. There was also a contract in early 2000 where Michael temporarily transferred his guardianship of Alissa to his son, Michael Jr., because, quote, Alissa is incorrigible and has refused to return home under the direct authority of her parent. It was stated that his new arrangement would, quote, allow her time to be away from her father and sister. So clearly, Alissa pushed back quite hard on Michael's rules at one point. It was never publicly said how long she lived under her brother's care. And before anyone thinks these contracts maybe don't sound so bad, I'd like to point out in a contract dated 1999, Alissa had to initial a statement that read, my father has never physically or sexually abused me or my siblings at any time. Michael said he had the contract notarized to protect himself from Alissa's false allegations, because apparently Alissa had threatened to go to Child Protective Services and tell them she was being abused. Michael said it was just a scare tactic that Alissa was using to get herself emancipated. So just to clarify, multiple close friends and even a sibling of Alissa's say that Alissa told them she was being sexually abused at home. Michael denies any abuse, but admits Alissa threatened to tell the authorities she was being abused, so to protect himself, he forced her to sign a contract denying any abuse. I don't know about you, but that seems shady to me. And what's worse is that a year before Alissa went missing, Michael called Child Protective Services himself and said, if Alissa calls you and claims abuse, don't believe her. She's just trying to extort me. And Child Protective Services went, okay.
That's insane.
I know that I'm not an expert, but isn't that a massive red flag? Isn't the moment that you, like, in that moment, aren't you like, maybe I should do a visit at that home and check on those children.
Yes.
Michael said the allegations were clearly just lies, because if they were true, I'd be in jail right now. Sir, I don't have time to get into the stats on just how much abuse goes unreported, let alone the amount of abuse that gets reported and isn't believed. So you not being in jail doesn't mean you're innocent. But going to child services and telling them, if my child comes to you and claims to be abused, ignore her, she's lying, really makes you look guilty of abuse, because an investigation will not find abuse if there's none to be found. By trying to nip a potential future investigation in the bud means you're worried something might be found if someone looks close enough.
Mhm.
And if that isn't all suspicious enough, when Alyssa's case was reopened in 2008 and detectives interviewed more than 200 people, the only person who refused an official interview was Michael Turney. He clearly spoke to police off the record, trying to make Alyssa's boyfriend look guilty, but he refused to speak on the record, which is sketchy as hell. If your child goes missing and you genuinely have no idea where they are and are worried for their safety, why wouldn't you do everything possible to help the investigators? Michael
Mhm.
Turney says the police department was corrupt and they're all liars. He claims that they never once asked him for a formal interview. He said that they only claim he turned them down just to make him look guilty. They interviewed over 200 people. Why wouldn't they ask to interview the missing child's only living parent? Make it make sense, Michael. During an interview with 2020, Michael again said he never once turned the police down for an interview, but rather the police just never asked him. He then stated, obviously, if the police asked him for an official interview, of course he'd say yes. So after his 2020 interview, the police officially asked him and he declined.
What the fuck? It's
I
so frustrating.
He also refused a lie detector test. Um, but even without an interview, detectives thought that Michael could still be helpful to the case because he had cameras around that house. Michael said he put up cameras in the fall of 2000 after someone tried to break into the house when he wasn't home. He claims his daughters called him. He told them to call 911. I'd like to know if there's a record anywhere that ever happened.
Mhm.
But after this alleged break in, Michael put up cameras outside the house, as well as at least one that was in the vent in his living room. He claimed he put it there so it could cover the sliding glass door that was at the back of the house. He didn't do it to spy on his children. But if that's true, then why did he tell Sarah that it was meant to watch Alissa to make sure she didn't get into any trouble? He also told Sarah not to tell Alissa about it. So clearly the camera had nothing to do with home security. So Michael had video footage of the outside and part of the inside of the house. Investigators thought the footage might come in handy because, at the very least, they'd have a more accurate description of exactly what Alissa was wearing when she disappeared. Also, it'd be good for police to have proof that Alissa was, in fact, last seen at the house. But when Michael was asked for the footage, he said he wasn't sure if he still had the tape. He'd have to look for it. Which is exactly what Mark said when Juliet asked to see a video of the wedding that Mark took in the movie Love Actually. Mark clearly had the video, but was putting Juliet off because he was hiding a secret. This is
Yeah.
what you do. If you have footage of the last known sighting of your child before they went missing, wouldn't you keep it? Maybe hand it over to police immediately? Michael told police, well, there's nothing on the tape anyway. He said he personally reviewed all 8 hours of footage back in 2001, but he decided there was nothing of interest. In later years, when asked about that footage, Michael changed his story. Now he says it never existed in the first place because he forgot to turn the cameras on that day. So, did you forget to turn the cameras on? Or did you watch 8 hours of footage and found nothing? Because both of those things can't be true. Then there's the recording device that Michael had attached to his home phone. It recorded every outgoing and incoming call that was made. However, that mysterious call that came in a week after Alissa went missing, the one that Michael said was proof Alissa was alive, yeah, for some reason, that was the only call that wasn't recorded.
How
When
convenient.
when asked why, Michael said he just hadn't reset it for the day, which is incredibly convenient because now only Michael and whoever was on the end of that phone knows what was said. On December 11th, 2008, the detectives contacted Sarah and asked her to come to the station, saying they wanted to discuss Alyssa's case with her. When she got there, they told her, I mean, the truth is, we've secured a search warrant for your house. Honestly, they just didn't want her to be there at the time to witness that. Um, their hope was to get handwriting and DNA samples from Michael, as well as search for the videotapes from the security system. Officers waited outside of the Turney house on North 34th Street in Phoenix, and when Michael left the house to retrieve his mail, he was apprehended. Turns out, despite leaving the house just to go to the mailbox and back, Michael was concealing 2 handguns, 7 magazines, a knife, and a recording device,
Jesus.
which feels, I don't know, extreme? I guess maybe he just has that on him at all times. When police searched the house, they hoped to find something relating to Alissa. Instead, they found 19 firearms and 2 homemade silencers, all unregistered. They found hundreds of VHS tapes, including videos of Michael having sex with a random woman, and Polaroids of a woman who was bound and blindfolded. There was also a backpack, which contained 26 pipe bombs, and in the garage, a van, which had propane tanks, gas cans, bleach, and buckets of nails and screws inside, which essentially made the vehicle a massive bomb. More than 100 residents in the area were evacuated while the bomb squad and ATF came to help clear the dangerous goods from the house. Inside a safe in the house, police found multiple envelopes, each addressed to a different news agency. In the envelopes was a thumb drive, which contained a 98-page manifesto written by Michael, which he had titled The Diary of a Madman Martyr.
Oh boy.
As you may recall from earlier, in the 80s and early 90s, Michael was an electrician until he got injured on a job site. After his injury, he filed a complaint about the unsafe working conditions. Well, according to the manifesto, Michael believed he was treated unfairly by the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, or IBEW. Um, he believed the IBEW still held a grudge against him. Decades later, he said members of the IBEW kidnapped Alissa, murdered her, and buried her body in Desert Center, California, which is about 197 miles west of Phoenix, to retaliate for what he believed that they had done. Michael planned to drive the loaded van into the IBEW local headquarters, blow up the building, and shoot any survivors who walked out the front door before taking his own life. To quote the manifesto, "It has consumed me. I must kill at least a dozen union members." So let me get this straight. You filed a complaint about a lack of safety on job sites, and to get back at you, the union waited 20 years before kidnapping one of your children. It makes zero sense. Michael wrote, quote, "There is not a truth I fear or would wish unknown to the whole world." So either he has lost his grip on reality or fully believes that Alissa was kidnapped by random electricians as part of a revenge plot. Or it's something darker, and I'm only speculating, like he was preparing for an insanity plea when he inevitably got arrested for murder. Since there was no body or any evidence of a crime, police were not able to file charges against Michael for Alyssa's disappearance. They were able to charge him with various weapons charges, including possession of unregistered destructive devices. Michael took a deal and pleaded guilty to the charges. He was diagnosed with paranoid personality disorder and sentenced to 10 years in prison. Sarah refused to believe that Michael was guilty. He had told her the police planted those pipe bombs because the only things he had in the house were firecrackers and a few things to make noise and start a fire. He admitted he did write the manifesto, but he only did it because he wanted to bring attention to Alyssa's case.
Uh-huh.
Believing that her father was wrongly accused, Sarah started a website and an online petition to get Michael released. While attending college, she acted as Michael's legal secretary. She went bankrupt trying to keep money in his commissary because there was something about like he told her he had to have a TV. And so she had to like keep putting money in, and it's like, oh, get lost. Sarah graduated from college in 2012 with a bachelor's degree in English. A few years later, Sarah ran into some of Alyssa's friends. They spoke briefly about the case, and the friends essentially were like, "You do know that Michael did this to her, right?" And honestly, up to this point, no, Sarah had no idea. Sarah was fully in her dad's corner because why wouldn't she be? It was her father, the only parent that Sarah had known since she was 4 years old. Of course, she's going to think the best of him, especially when he spent most of her life brainwashing her to believe whatever he wanted her to. Michael told Sarah repeatedly that Alyssa was out of control and doing things that were dangerous. And if you believe that, then it almost becomes reasonable that Michael would hide cameras in the house to secretly film Alyssa or put a device on the phone that recorded every phone call. Because then it looks like Michael is just trying to look out for his child and keep her safe. But once Sarah started rewatching their old family videos, with the new like frame of mind that her father might be guilty, she started to notice a lot of things she hadn't before, like her father zooming in on random women walking past or zooming in on Alyssa in a bathing suit and the fact that he wouldn't stop filming her and Alyssa would beg him to stop and like the time he was filming her when she was asleep and she woke up and told him to leave, but he just wouldn't.
Oh.
Sarah started to wonder if Alyssa's friends were right and her father was somehow responsible for Alyssa's disappearance. I mean, he said he dedicated his life to finding Alyssa, but he refused to be interviewed by police. He didn't hand over any security footage from the day she disappeared, and then later claimed the footage didn't exist at all. Sarah and Michael eventually stopped speaking, and then he was released from prison about 3 or 4 years later in 2017. Sarah confronted Michael about Alyssa's disappearance. He simply told her he picked Alyssa up early that day because she had asked him to. He claims Alyssa wanted to avoid John, which we know is not true, um, because she went out of her way to stop by John's class and then also said she'd see him later. When Sarah asked about the molestation allegations, Michael denied everything, saying Alyssa never would have put up with that. He didn't say no because he would never do anything like that. He said no because the child wouldn't have let him. And maybe I'm picking apart his choice of words, but that's because I don't trust him, especially
Yep.
when one of his sons described Michael as a master manipulator. So at this point, Sarah's convinced that Michael was responsible for her sister's disappearance, but the police told her there just isn't enough evidence to press charges. They said Sarah's best bet, get as much media attention for the case as possible. So in 2019, Sarah started a podcast called Voices for Justice, on which she interviewed everyone who gave witness statements to the police. There are about 30 episodes which focus on Alyssa's case. It totals more than 30 hours. So I didn't have nearly enough time to listen to it myself. But hey, if you're interested in a more in depth look at this case, I recommend you start there. So Sarah also started an online petition calling for Michael's arrest, which gathered nearly 300,000 signatures. She posted videos on TikTok that eventually went viral. And because of the attention that Sarah got for the case, Michael Turney was officially arrested on one count of second-degree murder in August 2020. The 6-day trial took place in July 2023. Michael Turney, who was 75 at the time, arrived in court in a wheelchair, which feels very Harvey Weinstein, looking for sympathy, trying to look like just a feeble old man. I couldn't have done anything wrong. That voice was unnecessary.
I liked it.
I'm so angry, I don't even know. Um, so the defense came in hard. They claimed Alissa was out of control. She'd gotten herself into trouble, just really blaming Alissa for what may have happened to her, which is disgusting. And I think the prosecution would have had a slam dunk case if they were allowed to push the motive that Alissa was being sexually abused and she threatened to come forward. However, none of the sexual abuse allegations were allowed to be mentioned because under the Constitution, specifically the Sixth Amendment, Michael has the right to face his accuser, and Alissa was not there. The concern was then that the allegations would maybe sway the jury to convict Michael of murder simply because they were angry about the abuse. But without the abuse allegations, there's not much left to go on, and Michael's motive is now kind of non existent. And since there was so little evidence, the defense submitted a motion for acquittal under the Arizona statute known as Rule 20. It allows the court to enter a judgment of acquittal on any offense if there is no substantial evidence to support a conviction. The defense argued the prosecution did not provide any evidence proving that Alissa was even dead, let alone that Michael was responsible. The judge agreed, and Michael Turney was acquitted. Unfortunately, this means that under double jeopardy laws, Michael can never be tried for second-degree murder in Alissa's case again. If her body is ever found, they will have to just figure out other charges to file against him if they can, um, assuming that he's responsible. But that could also, of course, mean a much lesser sentence. Michael has maintained his innocence. He said, quote, I would really like to clear my name before I die. So the day after the trial, Michael did an interview with Court TV. I'm going to give you a rundown of this interview because I think it's interesting, albeit enraging, to hear how he describes this case. So Michael said he picked Alissa up for lunch because she asked him to, because she wanted to avoid her boyfriend, John, who Michael says Alissa was breaking up with. But we know Alissa stopped by John's class to say she was leaving early. They made plans for later. John just feels like an easy target to blame here, so I don't buy it. Michael then said he wanted to talk to Alissa about their plans for the summer and to, quote, get the rules straight. What rules exactly? Well, to quote Michael, general rules that she needed to comply with, not just for herself, but also for her sister who was watching her. So did you pick her up because she asked you to? Or did you pick her up to get the rules straight? Which is it? Michael says Alissa mentioned a grad party that was happening that night and how she wanted to go. Michael said no, because she was grounded. Michael then allegedly told Alissa he wanted her to get her driver's license so she could help him out. He said they both got frustrated because they were equally stubborn. He said he was angry at her for giving her phone number out to people at the drive-thru at work. But there's no proof she ever did that. None of her fellow employees ever said they saw her. Like there were employees who were asked, did you ever see her give her phone number to people in the drive-thru? And they were like, no. So it's wild. Michael said he dropped Alissa off at home, and the last time he saw her, she was storming off down the hallway towards her room. Dropped her off around 1 p.m. 10 minutes later, called to apologize. My question, is there a phone record that proves this? That he called her at that point, and how long that phone call was. Michael said he then ran some errands and picked Sarah up from school. My question here, what errands did you run? Where did you go? Can anyone confirm his whereabouts at that time? Why was he so late picking Sarah up? Why would a man who claims to be so worried about the safety of his children that he put cameras inside his house, Why would he not be concerned about being more than an hour late picking his youngest child up from school? When Michael finally picked Sarah up, she said he was panicking because he couldn't get a hold of Alissa. So he gave Sarah his phone and told her to call while they were driving home. He supposedly last saw her at the house around 1 p.m. Um, he then spoke with her on the phone 10 minutes later when he apologized. But now she's not answering her phone, so she's not home. Well, just because she's not answering her phone doesn't mean she's not home. Um, Also, why were you so worried about where she was? What, like, in those 4 hours, she's not just allowed to be at home? Like, why wasn't he more concerned that he left his child at school? It's almost like he knew Alissa wasn't at home,
Right.
which would be weird. He said, quote, "The guilt of running my own child away from her safety is never gonna leave me." And honestly, if he is responsible in any way for Alyssa's disappearance, or if any, even a single inkling of those allegations are true, I hope her disappearance haunts him daily, night, day, all of it. Michael told Court TV, quote, if I could go back in time, I wouldn't have been so hard on her. Although it was necessary, Alissa did a lot of stuff very dangerous to her and her sister." So just blaming the victim for what? Being a teenager? You know what else is dangerous to Alyssa's sister? Leaving her at school alone for over an hour. I'll let it go. Maybe. When asked about the abuse allegations, Michael said, quote, "This is what happens when you're a single parent." Then he blathered on for several minutes before finally saying, "It never happened." He suggested that Alissa got the idea to lie about abuse from her brother, who had, according to Michael, manipulated protective services into getting what he wanted. Well, now I have questions about what happened to Alyssa's brother and CPS,
Yeah.
because I don't think a child would lie about abuse to leave a positive, stable, healthy home. Also, can we talk about the fact that when Michael was asked whether he molested Alissa, his first answer was, "This is what happens when you're a single parent." No, it's not. I don't know the stats on it. I just don't believe that every single parent is accused of abuse. Also, if you're asked, "Did you abuse your kids?" and you didn't, your first response should just be no. Your first response should not be blaming society for how they treated you as a single parent, not anything about the children. If it's not happening, a clear and immediate no is the response. Michael did add, quote, "There was never any molestation of Alissa. I was very, very cautious of that. Trying to teach her modesty was a real task." I'll say it. I know this man was acquitted, but I don't like when he speaks. I don't like what he says. I don't like what comes out of his mouth. I like none of it. When asked why there was no home security footage from the day Alissa went missing, Michael said, "Oh, it was an old system." Then he described how he had to reset it every day and said he must have forgotten that day and it was just a simple mistake. But again, when he first talked to police about it, he said he watched 8 hours of footage and there was nothing of note. So again, was the system on or wasn't it? Like, it's maddening. Personally, and I'm only speculating, but I think the only reason Michael refused to hand over the tape was because it showed Alissa never made it home that day. And to prevent police from finding that, he destroyed the tape and then just started claiming it never existed. Again, only speculating. When asked about his manifesto, he said the entire thing was just a way to keep Alyssa's case in the public eye. Manifesto? Side note. In that 98-page manifesto, Michael claimed that members of the Electricians Union murdered Alissa and dumped her body in Desert Center, California. In 2003, bone fragments were found in Desert Center, but there was not enough DNA to determine an identity. There weren't even enough remains to determine a gender. And the chilling thing is, bodies are found in Desert Center all the time. Like, there's a group of volunteers with the battalion search and rescue who said in the last few years, they've found at least 20 different body parts in that desert. The volunteers then file a report with police. It includes GPS coordinates to the remains. They flag the site so that police can find it easily and come collect them. However, the group said they revisited 15 sites that they had mentioned to police and found none had been touched and the bones were all still there. And we're talking like there was like video of it, and it's like they're walking along and oh, there's a skull. And then later on, it's like, oh, there's, I don't know, what I assume is what's a bone? A tibia or like a, God, all I hear is Phoebe in my head going, phalange. You know what I mean? Actually, I think that's a finger, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Score. I actually, thank you, friends, and Lisa Kudrow for helping me with that. The idea of just walking through that desert and there's just miscellaneous bones,
Terrifying.
horrifying. And look, I get it. Like, it's a massive desert area, and maybe the police just don't have the manpower to go collect these remains. To that, I say, hire more people. These remains could help give some level of closure to so many families. Hire more people. And while you're at it, add more investigators to cold case departments. In January 2024, the Phoenix Police Department Cold Case Unit had over 3,000 cases to go through and only 3 investigators to do it. And that's just Phoenix. It's overwhelming and depressing all at the same time. So back to court TV. Michael was asked where he thinks Alissa is. Michael said, quote, "With my police background and with all the publicity, she must be out of the country. She's my child and I love her, and I'm never going to give up on her, ever." He then suggested slightly that Alissa may have been the victim of human trafficking, which is interesting because I thought you thought the boyfriend did it, but okay.
Yeah, exactly.
The quote that Michael said about Alissa, that's just never going to leave me. He said, quote, "The last time I saw her was not the best condition that you want to remember." He could be referring to something as benign as an argument, but that very line could also describe seeing someone's dead body.
It's a weird wording.
It's, yeah. Again, I know he was acquitted. So when I tell you my theory, just know I'm only speculating. But I think he picked her up from school early with the intention of discussing summer plans because it was the last day of school. Also, it would be the last time they'd be guaranteed to be alone because Sarah was still at school. And by the next day, Sarah's just around all the time. I think it's possible while they were out, either they got into an argument about a specific plan or rule. Maybe he got inappropriate with her, like people had said he previously did. Uh, Speaking of which, if Michael allegedly touched Alissa inappropriately during a driving lesson to the point where she got out of the vehicle and walked home, is it possible that's why she never wanted to get her license? Because she didn't want to put herself in the position of more lessons being alone in the middle of nowhere with Michael? Again, only speculating. But I think there was some sort of argument. Michael got angry, hurt Alissa. I think he panicked. He found a place to temporarily hide her body, then took an old note of Alyssa's he had so that police would assume she ran away and wouldn't look for her. And then when they're not looking for her, he went back and put her body somewhere it would never be found. Did he put her body in the desert at Desert Center and that's why it's mentioned in the manifesto? Is it possible he hid her body in some new construction somewhere? At the time she went missing, a Target distribution center was being built 29 miles southwest of their home. It is a 1.6 million square foot building on West Van Buren Street. Construction was announced early 2001. She went missing like 3 months later. So there could have been a lot of area in that construction that he could have gone for. Acquitted or not, I think we can all agree that Michael Turney's behavior following Alyssa's disappearance has been sketchy at best. Not giving police that video surveillance from his home is weird, especially when years later he just outright claimed it didn't exist. Lie detectors are unreliable, so I get why he turned it down. But what reason would you have for saying no to a formal police interview regarding your daughter's disappearance? In my unprofessional opinion, that's when you have something to hide. Because that interview would have locked Michael into a certain timeline of when and where he supposedly took Alyssa for lunch and when he went on those supposed errands in the afternoon. From that, police could have gone, seen if there were cameras at these places, looked for any witnesses who may or may not have seen them. Uh, Otherwise, there's like 6 hours of time that we don't know where Michael really was or what he was doing. And that phone call on May 24th, that was supposedly Alyssa calling from California to tell Michael to leave her alone. Question: if police at that point were not looking for her, why would Alyssa ask to be left alone? Who was bothering her at that point to force her to reach out? Unless this call was a fake to simply give credence to the idea that Alyssa really had run away, because it just doesn't make sense for her to call at that point and then never call again. That call came in just after 5 a.m. It lasted 29.3 seconds. There were three other calls that morning between 7:45 and 9:31. Each lasted less than a minute. The last one lasted 21.1 seconds. I'd love to know what those calls were about. Who makes a phone call that's 21 seconds? I can't even make a fucking voice note to you 21 seconds or less. Oh, so 6 months after Alyssa went missing, Michael transferred the money from Alyssa's bank account into his own. That's the move of a man who either knows his daughter isn't out there and doesn't need money, or a man who's trying to punish his daughter for leaving, even though he claims her leaving was his fault. Although Sarah at one point said that her and Michael moved to the house across the street at some point after Alyssa's disappearance, and Sarah was surprised that Michael didn't set up a bedroom for Alyssa, almost like he was not expecting her to return. Sarah also said in early 1993, their mother, Barbara, took Alyssa and Sarah to a doctor to have them examined for signs of physical and sexual abuse. Sarah said she never learned the results of that testing, but it's very telling that a mother would take them at all. It means she felt something was off or she noticed something she didn't like. Their mother died just months later, and some have suggested that since Michael was her caretaker at the time, he might have either starved Barbara to death or maybe just given her too much medication. I don't know if there's any truth to that specific accusation, but the timing just feels incredibly suspicious. In
Mhm.
January 2024, Michael Turney sued the Phoenix Police Department for wrongful imprisonment and violation of his rights. He has since launched his own YouTube channel and has plans to start a podcast and write a book. I look forward to consuming neither. As for Sarah, she sat down with Michael to have an interview on camera. Uh, no matter what bullshit Michael would try and spin, Sarah remained strong and refused to back down. Michael then called her absolutely nasty and tried to gaslight her by saying Sarah was the one who destroyed their family. When Sarah had enough, she decided, I'm good, and she walked out of the interview. Michael turned to the people filming and went, "What? No drum roll?" I just can't fully describe the level of absolute prick that was on display in that interview. Like, he's just always that, and it's enraging. Sarah has continued her podcast. Now that there is nothing further about her sister's case, she has chosen to focus on other missing person cases in the hopes of bringing much needed attention to cases that don't normally get talked about. So kudos to her for taking a painful part of her life and using it to try and help others. What makes me also enraged is that Michael, in that last interview, accused Sarah of doing the podcast to try and make money off her sister's disappearance. And yet this asshat is going to he's got YouTube and he's going to start a podcast and write a book. What do you think that's going to be about? Get fucked, Michael, is what I'm saying. And I stand by it.
Hell
As of
yeah.
this record, Alissa Turney has not been found and her case remains unsolved. Reporting for True Crime and Cocktails, I'm a bit spicy tonight.
Look, I'm into it, and I think it's more than fair. Let's take a quick break, hit the can, grab a drink, and we'll be back with more on our thoughts on the Alissa Turney case on this episode of True Crime and Cocktails.
Am I even recording? Fuck. Yep. Doing great.
1, 2, 3. Welcome back to this episode of True Crime and Cocktails. We're, of course, discussing the Alissa Turney case. This was another one of the episodes where, as you were giving me details, I was like, I know this one. I must have seen a Dateline or something. Again, they all blur for me, but it's always funny when it's like a Memento or something where it's like I'm being given these like fragments of memories, and then I'm like, oh right. Yeah, this one is so tragic and so creepy. It's
Right?
so sad that these girls' mother dies and they're left in the care of this creep at
Yes.
best. Abuser,
100%.
murderer at worst, allegedly. But you know what I'm saying? Like, at best,
At
creep
best.
without question.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh, gross. Yeah, look, she didn't run away. That's not an option here. There's absolutely no way in hell a 17-year-old girl who has a boyfriend, regardless of whether they're fighting or not, she's not going to run away and not A, tell him, or B, contact him. She has
Yeah.
girlfriends. There's no way. I thought that was such a great point that it's like a teenager who runs away doesn't cut off every single human that they've ever known. It's just not, I don't think
Yeah.
that's plausible at a lot of ages. I believe an adult may have more fortitude that if they really wanted to disappear, that they could stick with it and make it happen. But a teenage girl, get out of here. There's
Yeah.
no way. There's no way. It would also be terrifying. There's so many layers to. I guess I just find it offensive. I find it offensive. It's like this guy is insulting our intelligence. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
Yep.
like this is such a stupid story. The fact that the note clearly was old, clearly was written before in some moment of anger, and he either, had been presented it, or it seems like she wrote it and threw it away, and then he happened to find it. Which, by the way, for a man who is constantly monitoring every move of this girl, I
Mm-hmm.
think it's more than possible he went through her trash and found it, absolutely, without
Yeah.
question, and
And
then
then it's
kept it
horror.
until it suited him.
And that's the horrifying part when you realize he kept it in case he could use it.
I
So it's
know.
like he knew at some point she might need to go missing.
Right. Or
Mm.
at best, he was like, I'll keep this to confront with her, like to have something over her at some point, at best. At
Oh, sure.
worst, it was like, yeah, no, I'm doing this because I may need to plan her disappearance at some point, which again, it's like, are you kidding me? Um, Now, please forgive me because this is the one detail that again, I was like, my brain, I'm sure you said it and I missed it. Is Sarah his biological daughter?
Yes. He had 3 sons.
Right.
Barbara had a son and a daughter. They got married and then they had Sarah together.
Yes. It's reminding me of uh the other case, the Netflix documentary about the woman who gave her daughter up for adoption and then the daughter went missing. People are screaming listening to this right now. They know exactly who I'm
Yes.
talking about.
Yes.
But it was
It was the something about the fire, right?
Into the Fire, I
Didn't
believe.
didn't we
Yes,
just do that one in like just in
we did.
December?
But
But
again, it
like
was one of
December's not just, Christy. December was a beat ago.
right.
So,
But that is
you
still
know,
very recent. Again, we didn't remember having the same ranch conversation. This isn't on us, okay? We're doing the best we can. But the
yeah.
parallel I wanted to draw was another case where that daughter was adopted.
Yep.
and was treated differently than the biological daughter by the father. Now, again, we're not even going to get into that case again and that mother, and there was lots problematic happening there. But you know what I'm saying? Like it's interesting to me that this is a parallel where both of these men approached the daughter that wasn't biologically theirs differently than their biological child. First
A
of
hundred
all,
percent.
disgusting. Second of all, is that something in their sick minds that makes them think it's okay to mistreat them or sexually assault them or whatever? Like it's so sick to me. And again, the fact that these girls and you know what, quite honestly, who's to say what happened to their mom? Who's to
Yeah.
say? At this point, nothing would shock me. We've done this show long enough that nothing would shock me, because it also wouldn't shock me if they didn't do a proper autopsy. If this woman was going through lung cancer, serious enough lung cancer, and then dies one day, is there any reason to order an autopsy? Her spouse certainly wouldn't have,
Great call.
right? Are the kids going to be going to the police saying, order an autopsy? Probably not. They have no reason to disbelieve him. So again, like, does it seem plausible that perhaps the mom was onto something, and then just speculating, but honestly, it doesn't sound that far-fetched to me. That doesn't sound crazy. And by the way, if he did kill Barbara and got away with it, it would only have emboldened him to kill again. We know that's a
100%.
fact. Yeah, she took no clothes. She didn't take her phone. No way. It's not going to happen. It's
Also,
just,
why was the stuff from the backpack just dumped on the floor, but the phone was neatly placed on the desk?
isn't it also possible he dumped out the backpack? Maybe she kept that note that she wrote and crumpled up in her backpack because she knew her dad would go through her
Oh,
trash. So maybe she kept it in there and then just forgot to throw it out at school or whatever. And then he found, like,
oh, 100%. Also, it was episode 197.
thank you.
Into the Fire, The Lost Daughter.
There it is.
Came out
Yes.
December 17th. It was Andrea Bowman,
Thank you very much.
of
Thank you.
course.
Yes. And a totally another tragic,
Mm.
fucking disgusting case. Anyway, I mean, they all are, but I don't know. There's something about a parent turning on a child.
Mm.
You know, I think it rattles all of us. It's why
Oh,
people are
yeah.
fascinated with Lori Vallow. It's like
Oh,
there's just something about it that I don't know. I find it even more sickening. Anyway, it's impossible to rank. It's all sickening, but you know what I'm saying. There's something
of
about it that is
course.
more unsettling, I think is a better term. Um, okay, where am I here? The hidden cameras in the vents in the house.
Mhm. Yep.
Disgusting. If they were really only intended to be keeping an eye on the house because of a break-in or whatever, you would disclose that to your children and
Yep.
tell them. But then he
Yep.
also admitted to Sarah that it was like, well, I had to keep an eye on your sister because she was so out of control. The fact also that when there was the footage of her and John fighting, which it's so sick because Michael essentially threw that grenade into that relationship and then walked away. The fact that the footage was edited, and I don't know whether police did that, but it really felt like Michael had been editing these tapes, which is
Oh,
also
I'm
like,
sure.
what are you doing? Like, what is this? If you're cutting to get, like, that's so,
Mhm.
then what? These are actors in your own film that you're making? Gross. Also, by the way, the fact that Alissa told her friends she woke up strapped to a chair with him suffocating her. The
Mhm.
fact that we also know that he had video of him having sex with a woman and he had Polaroids of a woman bound and blindfolded.
Yeah.
Okay, so I believe Alissa and her friends, by the way. I
100%.
believe them. There's no reason not to. And it only backs them up that there's this other part of him, right? That again,
Mhm.
like, he has Polaroids of a bound, blindfolded, naked woman. First of all, did she consent to being photographed? If she was blindfolded, did she know? Is the woman that you were having sex with, did she consent to being filmed? We know you have hidden cameras around the house. So again,
Great point.
disgusting. But again, if we know that he's into bondage and whatnot, then Alissa waking up strapped to a chair with him suffocating her, by the way, fits the MO, disgusting as it is. So it
True.
only proves, or it's more proof to me that that story is real. Again, I believe them to begin with, but to me, it's like he's clearly got a pattern here that
Yeah.
there's evidence supporting. So again, the fact that the police didn't dig in harder, but anyway, we'll get to that. Um, the other thing I just want to say really quickly, this woman, Diane, who
Oh,
was
yeah.
her Alyssa's third grade teacher that dated Michael, and when Alissa said to her, "I'm having sex with my dad," as a 9-year-old child,
Yep.
you failed that fucking child. How
Yep.
dare you? You should be ashamed of yourself. I'm sorry, but if you are a teacher and a child comes to you and says, and I quote, "I'm having sex with my dad," a 9-year-old, you have an obligation.
Yes.
She let her personal life cloud it. She chose to believe the adult over the child. Disgusting, and shame on her. And I hope that she feels guilty because, honest to God, you failed that child, period. And I don't feel guilty about saying
100%.
that at all.
Oh, 100%. Isn't it also so telling that that Alissa spoke to this woman, and then after Michael and this woman broke up, he just never dated anybody else? It's like, oh, I'm sure he was with other women. He just didn't bring them home because he realized it was too dangerous because your kid could say what's happening at home.
Right. Well, great point. Yes. And I would also ask or add, is he sick enough that he thought choosing her teacher would make her jealous? Because he sure seemed obsessed with Alissa throughout her entire life.
Oh, 100%. The way he treated her was absolutely different than the way he treated Sarah.
It's so gross. The fact that he would show up and sit waiting for her at her workplace for hours, filming her
Mhm.
the whole time, it's
Yeah.
so gross. And listen, I know that you don't want videos of any open casket funeral or any funeral, and I respect that. Different people grieve differently. There may be people out there who they do want to remember that moment
Fair
of a loved
enough.
one, whatever.
Fair
I
enough.
think the difference is that he has a very long history of filming inappropriate things prior to that. If that had
Yeah.
been the only thing that was a little off, okay,
Sure.
you know,
Sure.
everybody grieves in their own way. But it's the fact that he had been filming strange women, zooming in on them, filming Alissa in a bathing suit as a child, zooming in, filming
Mhm.
her while she sleeps. She's waking up like in that pattern, like with all of that added in,
Yeah.
I think it is I don't know that this is just how he was grieving. It feels bizarre. Let's say this, it's atypical in terms of the
Yeah.
longer narrative of
Yeah.
filming.
Yeah. There
Um,
there was also a moment in the video where he was like, I assume it was like in a church, but when he was first filming, he was by himself because he was like panning around the room and it was kind of empty. And then just that zoom in of her in the casket really turned my stomach. But then there was a moment outside the church where I think I can't tell if it was Alyssa or if it was Sarah. She was young, but my brain isn't telling me how young the child was. Um, and she was in this very adorable dress. And he asked her um, something along the lines of like, "Are you ready for mom to go to heaven?" And it's like, "Oh, we're taking mom to heaven." And I'm like, "How is that? What?" But he made it like a joyous event. And I get that again, people grieve differently. But it just felt weird.
of
And I was
course.
like, what are we doing?
Well, it's again, it's in the in the larger context, right? Again, if it's like there could be lots of people that go out of their minds when their spouse dies and like,
Sure.
"You're ready to send mom to heaven?" Like that
Sure.
again on its own is what it is. It is in but in this longer pattern of a lifetime of behavior,
Mhm.
yeah, that's fucking creepy.
Yeah.
If it was somebody else, again, I might not view it that way. But you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, weird.
Yeah.
Again, weird at best, something else at worst, right? Like indicative of larger issues at worst.
Oh,
Um,
100%.
because the other thing I will just say very quickly is If there is this video footage of Alissa having, sexual relations with multiple boys that weren't her boyfriend, I don't know. When she was 9, she said that she was being sexually abused by her father. And one of the things that we know that happens to some children who are sexually abused as children by adults is they become hypersexualized as they get older. So,
Sure.
by the way, you piece of shit asshole, if you were having sex with your child and then when she was reacting to life the way she did through the lens of being abused,
Yeah.
and then you filmed her and used that against her, that is
Mm.
such a level of diabolical, disgusting manipulation.
Yep.
Because my bet is that she was abused her entire life sexually by him. This is I'm speculating, but this is my
Of
bet.
course.
And of course, that can do lots of different things to how children then cope.
Mhm.
And how disgusting that he would then try to use that behavior to help him and his own story and saying she's out of control and what is he supposed to do? You created it. You
Yeah.
created it, sir. You fucking he's so gross.
Mhm.
Now, my next rant. The notary.
Oh,
What the fuck? Do you not feel you had an obligation to report to the police what this father was doing? Are you having parents come in all the time asking you to notarize a contract about sex, discussing sex, the specific kinds of sex? Is that normal? Because I'm going to go out on a limb here and say probably not.
mm.
Shame on that person as well. You had look, I understand that a notary takes certain oaths and doesn't take other ones, but to me, it's like these adults failed her.
Oh,
They
yeah.
failed her. That was absolutely a call to the police. I'm sorry if I do that job and I am sitting watching a child initial. I promise to my father that I won't give blowjobs. I swear that my father never sexually assaulted me, and
Yeah.
she has to initial it. I'm gonna say thank you for your service. Get in, or thank you for your business. Get in the car and call the cops.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
is
yeah.
so. It's very sad to me that it doesn't appear that there was any action taken with something that is clearly beyond inappropriate and like just a crimson red flag.
Yeah.
And again, the fact that he then, because again, if the notary, for example, I don't know, had gone to Child Protective Services and said, hey, I just had this weird experience with a parent, I want to report it. Then, when Michael called Child Protective Services saying,
Yep.
if my daughter reports abuse, don't believe her, then they'd be able to go, oh, well, this outside person of the family also, maybe we should call the police. And then again, this is another
Mhm.
opportunity that this child could have been saved. It
Yep.
just, if you see something, say something. I think it's a simple concept and
Sure.
better to be wrong, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I'd much rather accuse somebody of something. And I'm not saying we should be accusing people
Of
without
course
doing,
not.
but in these scenarios, if the man I was dating, if his child came to me and said, his 9-year-old child came to me and said, I'm having sex with dad, I'm going to absolutely be on cloud 9 if I take it to the police and I'm wrong. Because guess what? Better
Mhm.
than the alternative.
Oh, yeah. I would rather people have to have a conversation with the cops and I find out, like, oof, I jumped the gun there.
Yeah.
Ah.
And by the
Um,
way,
yeah.
and I would say, and I understand that it would end the relationship, and so be it, and fair enough. But to me, it's like I absolutely would not be able to live with myself by discounting a child
Yeah.
coming to me. Period.
100%.
So gross. Ugh. I also have to point out that when asked if he had ever sexually assaulted Alissa, he said she never would have put up with that. You fucking piece of shit monster. If you are talking about a 9-year-old child,
Mhm.
putting any sort of responsibility on a child to, quote, not put up with abuse, you're sick, you're disgusting. The fact that the words even came out of your mouth is disgusting.
Mhm.
Yeah, this one got me fired up too. I just,
Yeah.
I really, it is. it's twofold for me. It's people who could have saved her life potentially
Yep.
fucking up, and it's this piece of shit. Because that's not a normal answer. To your point, have you ever sexually assaulted your child? She never would have put up with that. What? If somebody said to me, have you ever sexually assaulted a child? I would say, oh my God, are you kidding? That makes me physically ill. This would be the
Yep.
response of somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yep.
the idea that it would immediately go on to her. No, she never would have put up with that. Oh, okay. And then he said, and I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember the exact quote, but he talked about like, well, this is what happens when you're a single parent. To your point, no, it doesn't. No, it's not.
No.
That's not a universal thing at all.
No.
Um, he said something along the lines of, I was very conscious of not abusing her. I'm sorry, what? You
He
had
would.
to be
Mhm.
very conscious of it? Because I've interacted with a lot of humans that don't have to think about it because they would never do it.
Yeah.
How is it even, oh, it's constantly on your mind? What?
It's yeah.
It
Like
should never have
mhm.
entered your mind. I
No.
think there's millions of parents around the world that never have the thought of, ooh, I'm going to have to really be careful I don't sexually assault my child today. Right?
100%.
Not a parent think I'm well within my rights of
Oh,
saying
yeah.
that
No,
because
you
that's
got it.
absurd.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Not a hard concept. Again, like these are it's just red flag after red flag after red flag. The fact again that like the manifesto, the bombs, the van, this story that oh, this
Mhm.
union kidnapped her and buried her and like I understand that they didn't have enough evidence to get a conviction. I get that. But like my God, you guys, this man is again degrees of mentally ill at best and a psychopath at worst. I don't think this is just a whatever personality disorder. This is we're dealing with something else here because um again, why would he say that she was specifically in Desert Center? Where would he get that from if she's not there? I guarantee you that's where he buried her body. Guaranteed. And he put it there because he probably wanted her to be found because he was still trying to pin it on this elusive union group,
Right?
right? Like and then towards the end, I was taking all of these notes where I was like, is there proof that they went to lunch on her last day alive?
No,
Is there a
not that I've
receipt?
ever
Where
heard.
did they go? What's the timeline? And then you said if he had done a police interview, they would have had a timeline. And I just wrote down timeline. Yes, because that's what I kept saying is that I was like,
Mhm.
just make him prove it.
Yep.
Make him prove it. And this is another one of those scenarios. And I know we've talked about this on the show before where I don't understand how he can just refuse the police interview. I guess if he's not under arrest, he doesn't have to give it. That's the whole point.
I guess.
I mean, again, to me, and to your point also, if this was a terrified, grieving father, I'm certain he would have offered up every single detail that he had about that day, about what happened, about where they were.
Mhm.
If you have nothing to hide, you talk to the police.
Yep.
Period. Um, the fact that he transferred all of her money to his account 6 months after she went missing, again, these are not signs of these are red flags. It doesn't prove anything,
Yeah.
but these are massive red flags, every single one.
Right?
Yes. Yes. Um, yeah, and I do remember now that I remember that I had seen something about this
Of
case before.
course.
I do remember the scene where Sarah was confronting him, and he is absolutely infuriating to watch.
Yep.
It
Oh,
makes
yeah.
my blood boil. I'm just like, and the way he was just like, this is on you. And it's like, isn't that interesting? So all of Alyssa's issues were her fault. And now her sister, who you always treated like, was an angel or whatever. Now the second that she's calling you out on something, now she's the fault. The fault of all of this lies on her.
Yep.
Convenient.
Mhm.
Convenient. Um, it's just such a tragic story on every level that will probably never be fully solved. The fact that we know that people go through that desert deliberately trying to find remains of people, I'm sure to try and help the families of people who've lost, and that the police are overrun, so they're not necessarily following up on finding bones. And I mean, that right there, if she was buried there, then there's no guarantee she would have ever been found. And to your point, the fact that there was a fresh construction at the time, I don't need to explain to you. We've heard that before too. That's like a prime situation where there's a very large possibility you'll never be found.
Yeah.
Um, what a mess and what a tragedy. And
Yeah.
shame on those adults.
A
Sorry,
100%.
especially the teacher. I just think again, as a teacher, like it's part of your job. It would
Especially
be
when
bad if
they
she did anything for a living, but the fact that it was
sure.
her teacher and she went to her and said that, and then she was like, "Oh yeah, she's acting out." Kids don't act out like that.
It's also the fact that like he had made that comment to her on the phone about like men are gonna love having sex with her someday. And it's like in that moment you weren't like, okay, whether that happened before or after Alyssa came to you. Either way, when you
Here's
have
the
those
thing,
two items, it's like once you get the second, you should go, I shouldn't have needed the second one.
and go to the police.
Yeah. And be like, something's not right here.
Right. Go to Child Protective Services, go to the police. The fact also that Michael was like, well, Alyssa learned this from her brother because he made a false report of abuse. Sounds to me like he was probably abusing that son of his as well. Like,
Yeah. Well, and that one specifically, I believe, was Barbara's son.
oh, interesting. Well, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Christy Oxborrow, fantastic work as always. A truly, truly maddening, horrifying case.
Yep.
Um, so tragic on every level, but you know,
Oh,
we
it makes me want to scream into the void.
yeah, it's a really I mean, they're all
Yeah.
bad, but like I said, this one just this poor, poor child.
Yeah.
Um, needless to say, 12 out of 10 for your work. Well done.
I I love when you grade, and you know it.
And I like to give you that gift.
Of
And we
course.
thank you, dear listeners, for coming with us on this wild ride. If you haven't already, give us a follow on the socials on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at True Crime and Cocktails. On the other one, at Not Detectives. If you'd like some bonus content, go over to patreon.com/True Crime and Cocktails to learn more about our subscription-based service over there. And the only place for official True Crime and Cocktails merch is, of course, truecrewmerch.com. So check that out as well if you're interested. Christy, do you want to tell the people about next week's episode?
On the next True Crime and Cocktails, the Kings of Tupelo.
Oh, cannot wait. Watched that one and then immediately texted Christy saying, this is a story that you're going to love. So can't wait to get into that. Christy, do you want to say goodnight to the people?
I do. Oh, I'm fine. It's fine. Fuck, I'm gonna miss him so much. Good night, Scott Lawton.
Good night to the Lawton boy.